On this week's edition of we have a Century. What kind of Century is this? It's not open top. It's not closed top. It's a baby. Yeah, this is a 36-inch Century, model CF-36. An alternative model number will be 283, which somehow denotes the date. This thing, I'd say dates to the late, I'd say dates to the 20s. Mid to late 20s, more than likely. Okay. This thing is a bit different from other Centuries. This thing uses a traditional pancake motor instead of the spinner motor found in the 60-inch open and closed top. Use plain blade irons with a similar shape. They mount the same as the Century. What they mount to is a hub. Right? It's a simple hub with 4 little feet, or 4 tabs, okay, that extend out from the hub. Why they did this instead of just use normal irons, I don't know. But, yeah. So again, it's just a normal pancake motor. Like the GE. It has a lower canopy, which underneath that is the speed coil. Down rod is 1/2 inch. So, fun. Just turn it there. One nice thing about this. Oh, look at those little blades. Oh, they're so cute. They're so little. So, this is the badge. Nice on the side of the fan. Now, I'm not sure exactly when the 36-inch Century was introduced. But what I do know is that this was more than likely meant for hotels. You know, let's say Century wanted to get into the hotel fan business. Little fans for little hotel rooms, right? But the 60-inch was just simply too large and too powerful for such a space. So, what did they do? They made this. And these evidently did not sell that well, because the 36-inch Century, it's not common. You don't see these as often as other 36-inch antiques, other babies. Like, I feel like you'll see baby long noses more often than you will these. So, yeah. Bit of an unusual little beast. Now the fan uses a 3-speed pullchain, which I'm pretty sure is original to the fan. I think it's a Perkins pullchain, I want to say. I haven't opened it up to find out, but they made those, I believe. It's based on a snap switch, except, you know, it has a pullchain instead. Alright, yeah, and this is one of the few antique, 36-inch antiques that has more than 2 speeds. You know, the Emerson round nose, the baby round nose 2-speed, alright? I want to say the baby long nose is also 2-speed, but don't quote me on that. I've never actually handled one. I'm probably wrong, but yeah, this one has 3 speeds, which I find interesting. So, but yeah, Century, they started out with the open top, right? Back around, I want to say 1902, right? Sometime around then. The first ones were actually split phase motors. These were split-phase pancake motors, meaning they had centrifugal start switches inside the motor. Huge switches for a low-speed motor. So, interesting. And then they moved to shaded pole because that makes more sense. Alright. And then, went to the closed top in the late teens. And then they made this, but probably not for very long, or very few actually sold, because again, this version is actually kind of rare. I have only seen one of these in the wild. Only one. Alright. I was at... No, I wasn't at. I was going after a couple of old Union 36-inch industrials, right? They were free off of, I think, Marketplace. Maybe Craigslist, I forget which. I think it was Craigslist, but anyway. I go to their house, alright? And I'm wondering, hey, what did you replace the fans with? Well, they showed me, alright? One was replaced with a 52-inch Hunter H52 original, probably from the 40s, alright? Maybe 30s. Okay, and then the other room had a Century like this. Little 36-inch Century with bits plated brass. They came from the late and pretty well-known Phil Frey. These people actually knew him. So, small world. But yeah, they replaced early 80s, like late 70s, early 80s vintage with antique. So, they went in the right direction. I mean, seriously. The very right direction. So this is better detail showing the hub. So let's see what this thing does. Yeah. Evidently, the thruster bearing is in need of replacement. It's a little rough, and I'm pretty sure the shaft could stand to be cleaned as well. I got this thing in a trade from another collector. Alright. And it came off of eBay. Where it came from before that, I have no idea. Wherever it was a pretty dry place, because this thing's actually in pretty good condition. There's no rust. Bits of scratches on the paint, probably from storage. Alright. But no rust. Most of the paint's still there. It just needs a bit of touch-up. Maybe a bit of polishing as well. Or to go over again with, clear coat. Alright, and the blades look like they may have had the stain stripped off of them at one point, so the blades need to be stained, but that's pretty easy. Now keep in mind, this fan is using its original speed coil, and it actually seems to be working. Because one thing with antiques that I've noticed is that their speed coils aren't very effective. It's just faster, it's just fast and then faster. Or fast, faster, and then tornado mode, so... there wasn't a lot of... Like, these things weren't really... Or at least back in the day, aesthetic lows weren't really a thing. Okay. I want to say this thing's doing about maybe 100 RPM on the low. Which is not bad for a 36-inch fan. It's really not. Now this thing had a little bit of shaft wear, a little bit of lateral play, which kind of makes me think, use 30 weight oil, which I did. I used SAE 30, and there's no cyclic flux buzz, so EA for that. Okay. So yeah, this thing, the motor has no vents. No vents on top, no vents on the bottom, nothing. Now I have seen these with light kits, such as, I think, 4-inch globe fitter, as well as a fitter which, you could attach electrolures to. This one is the standard no light kit version, so let's go to medium. Also note that the speed sequence on here for whatever reason is low, medium, high. I'm not sure if that's original, but I like it. Yeah, the lower canopy is kind of vibrating because the original screws weren't included to keep the canopy on, but whatever. I'll find some. Yeah, thrust bearing needs to be replaced, and again the shaft could probably stand to be cleaned because the spin down time's pretty fast, which implies that there's some resistance even though it's full of oil. Now to oil this thing, there is actually a little oil plug. A little, screw-in oil plug right above the lip of the oil cup, right? So what you do, undo that bit, and then put your oil in right there, and I think it takes about an ounce of oil. Not a very large oil cup. Now, the 60-inch Century does not have any oil port. You just, take your oil with this little spout and just put it over the top of the switch housing, over the top of the oil cup. Because, well, it's easy. And that's also a spinner, so it's different, but yeah. This one thing has a blade pitch of 11.5 degrees, which, I mean, alright, it's a small fan. Can't expect too much, but let's go to high. Yeah, that medium speed was not too bad for a 36-inch fan. But what's interesting is you jump to high and oh yeah, there is a bit of a speed difference. So for once, the medium speed is actually quite a bit lower than the high speed with an antique on its original speed coil. Kind of unusual, you don't see that too often. But hey, welcome change of scenery. Yeah, this thing naturally flies. I want to say it's doing about 300 RPM on high. Probably a little more. Now this thing has a relatively normal pitch for the size. Alright. The 60-inch has a relatively shallow pitch, but then again that thing runs extremely fast. 285 RPM on high. So what that means is that it runs more off of speed than it does pitch, but this thing, it runs off of speed, but also a relatively normal pitch for the size. For example, a 36-inch Emerson Northwind also has a blade pitch, well, actually it has a blade pitch of 11. Alright, it doesn't run as fast. So, I mean, this thing, for a small fan, it's not doing too bad. It actually moves a good bit of air for its size. Yeah, which I like. Let's turn it off and let it coast. You can hear the clunkiness of the bearings. They're definitely pitted, definitely worn. But hey, that's what Fastenal's for. Yep, very fast spin down time. Definitely needs a new thrust bearing. So, yeah, I can probably find a Hunter bearing, an original bearing, to go fit into it just fine, because you actually work with the 60-inch open and closed tops. So, because the shaft size is the same, yeah, it works. Even though the races probably aren't as wide, it doesn't really matter all that much. So, there you have it. a 36-inch baby sentry. Or a baby that needs a name, because there's really no nickname for these things. But, yep, hope you enjoyed.